Dear beloved child of God, thank you for joining us today. The testimony I will be sharing with you today was sent to us 4 days ago. This testimony revealed the hidden secret many don't know about the mark of the beast and what it will look like. This is an urgent message to the world, a reminder of what we were told in the book of Revelation in the Bible. So I encourage you to watch this video to the end so that you will understand what this message is all about and how it will be of help and how you need to be ready before it starts. Note, this is a personal near-death experience. You are encouraged to read your Bible to get more understanding about the end time, what we should expect. Before I share this testimony with you, I would want to know where you are listening from so that our prayer team will continue to put you and your family in prayers. Now relax and listen. I am going to read it as it was sent to us. No part has been removed or added. My name is Marlo Sandstone and I'm 40 years old. I live in Austin, Texas, where I work as a school librarian. 3 weeks ago, on a Tuesday morning while I was shelving books in the children's section, something happened that turned my whole world upside down. I had just finished organizing the picture books when I felt dizzy. The room started spinning really fast and I grabbed onto the shelf to keep from falling. But it didn't help. My legs gave out and I hit the floor hard. The last thing I remember was seeing the colorful book covers blur together as everything went dark. The doctor said I had a stroke. They told my sister Karen that I was in a coma for 2 days. But during those 2 days I wasn't really unconscious. I was somewhere else. Somewhere I can't fully explain even now. When my eyes closed in that library, they opened somewhere completely different. I wasn't in my body anymore. I could see myself lying on the library floor with kids screaming and my coworker Mrs. Michael calling 911. But I was floating above it all, being pulled upward by something I couldn't resist. The next thing I knew, I was standing in a place that looked like an enormous workshop. It stretched on forever in every direction. There were what I can only describe as workbenches everywhere, and at each bench stood beings made of light. They were building things but not with hammers and nails. They were speaking words, and as they spoke, objects would form in the air. Cities, buildings, systems, all taking shape from nothing but their voices. I stood there watching, not understanding what I was seeing. Then one of these beings of light turned and looked at me. When his eyes met mine, I felt completely seen, like every secret I ever kept was visible. He walked toward me and I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't move. He didn't speak out loud, but somehow I heard him clearly in my mind. He told me that what I was seeing was the preparation of things that would soon appear on earth. He said that heaven was creating structures that would test every person alive, and that the testing would separate people forever based on their choices. The being gestured toward one of the workbenches, and suddenly I was standing right next to it. I watched as another angel was forming something that looked like a tiny seed, but when I looked closer, I could see it contained entire systems of technology, all compressed into something smaller than a grain of rice. The first angel explained to me that this was the blueprint for what would be offered to people on earth very soon. He told me it would be presented as something helpful, something that would solve problems and make life easier. But he revealed that once it entered a person's body, it would change something deep inside them, something they could never get back. I felt sick watching this. I asked if people would know what they were really choosing. The angel showed me scenes that made me want to cry. I saw people lining up happily, even excitedly, to receive this thing. I saw commercials on TV making it look like the best decision anyone could make. I saw churches with banners outside saying it was okay with God. Then everything changed again. The workshop disappeared and I found myself in what looked like a library but infinitely huge. The shelves were filled with books that glowed with their own light. An angel was pulling books from the shelves, and as he opened them, I could see they contained the stories of people's lives. He pulled out one book and opened it in front of me. I saw a woman who looked a lot like my neighbor Mrs. Patterson. I watched her life play out like a movie. I saw her going to church every Sunday, singing in the choir, bringing food to sick people. She seemed like such a good Christian. But then I saw what would happen to her in the coming months. When the new system was announced, I watched her struggle with the decision for exactly 1 week. She prayed, she cried, she read her Bible. But in the end, she took the mark because her daughter needed medicine that couldn't be bought without it. The angel showed me what happened next, and it was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen. I watched this woman try to pray the next morning, but her words just seemed to hit the ceiling and fall back down. She tried to repent, tried to ask God for forgiveness, but something inside her had been turned off. She kept trying for days, for weeks, but that connection was just gone. The angel closed the book and told me that this would be the story of millions of people. He said that many who thought they were strong in faith would discover they had been building their spiritual lives on sand. When the pressure came, they would make the choice that seemed logical, that seemed merciful, that seemed necessary, and they would lose everything. I begged the angel to tell me how people could avoid this. I asked what they needed to do to stay strong. That's when everything changed again. I found myself in a throne room so massive that I couldn't see the walls. The floor looked like it was made of clear glass with fire underneath it. In front of me was a throne, and sitting on that throne was someone whose face I couldn't look at directly. The light coming from him was too bright, too pure, too intense. But I knew who it was. Every cell in my being knew I was standing before Jesus. He stood up from the throne and walked toward me. As he got closer, somehow the light became less blinding and I could see his face. His eyes were kind but also fierce, like he could see everything about me and loved me anyway while also demanding everything from me. He began showing me things that would happen on earth, and he told me these events would unfold within months, not years. He said the time for preparation was almost over. The first thing he showed me was a scene in Austin, my own city. I saw downtown with all its tall buildings and busy streets. Then I watched as every screen in the city, every phone, every computer, every TV, all showed the same announcement at the exact same time. World leaders were introducing something they called the Global Unity Card. They said it would end poverty, stop crime, and bring peace to the whole world. They showed videos of hungry children getting food, sick people getting medicine, homeless people getting houses, all because of this new system. Jesus revealed to me that this would be the mark spoken about in the Bible, but it wouldn't look evil at first. It would look like the answer to every problem. He showed me that the technology was far more advanced than anything people knew existed. It wasn't just a chip or a tattoo. It was something that would actually connect to a person's brain and change how they thought and felt. Then he showed me what would happen in the weeks after this announcement. I saw my own church, Riverside Community Church, where I've gone for 15 years. I watched as Pastor Mike stood in front of the congregation and explained why it was okay for Christians to take the mark. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was using Bible verses but twisting them to mean something different. He talked about how Jesus wants us to help the poor, and how we can't help anyone if we refuse to participate in the system that feeds them. He said that God cares about our hearts, not about some piece of technology in our bodies. Jesus told me that this would happen in churches across America. He said that many pastors would lead their people straight into destruction because they loved their buildings and their comfort more than they loved the truth. But then he showed me something different. He took me to a house on the east side of Austin. Inside, about 12 people were gathered in a living room. They didn't have a fancy worship team or professional lights. They were just sitting in a circle, reading the Bible together and praying. One woman in the group stood up and said she had a dream the night before. She described seeing the exact same Global Unity Card announcement that Jesus had just shown me. In her dream, an angel had warned her that anyone who took it would lose their soul forever. The group took her dream seriously. They started planning right then how they would survive without being able to buy or sell. But more than that, they spent hours praying and asking God to make their faith strong enough to endure what was coming. Jesus explained to me that groups like this all over the world would survive what was coming, but not because they were smarter or had more supplies. They would survive because they knew his voice clearly enough to follow his instructions exactly. Then he showed me what would happen to people who took the mark. I saw my coworker Stephen, who sits at the desk next to mine in the library. He's always been a nice guy, always helpful, always friendly. I watched him get the mark on the first day it was available because he wanted to be able to keep buying his morning coffee without hassle. At first, nothing seemed different. He went about his life normally. But after a few weeks, I watched him change. He started getting angry at little things that never bothered him before. He stopped being patient with the kids who came to the library. And when someone tried to talk to him about Jesus, his face twisted up with rage that seemed to come from somewhere else. Jesus revealed to me that the mark didn't just control buying and selling. It actually changed people from the inside. It made them unable to feel conviction about sin. It made them unable to truly seek God. It was like their spiritual antenna had been removed, and now they could only pick up signals from the enemy. The scene shifted, and I saw believers who had refused the mark. They were hiding in different places trying to survive. Some were in the woods, some in abandoned buildings, some in underground tunnels beneath the city. But here's what amazed me. I watched as God provided for them in supernatural ways. I saw a family in their hideout with almost no food left. They prayed over the little bit of rice and beans they had, and when they went to cook it, the containers were full again. This happened every single day. I saw another group that was about to be discovered by police with scanners looking for unmarked people. But as the officers got close, fog rolled in from nowhere and confused them. The believers walked right past the police, and it was like the officers couldn't see them at all. Jesus told me that these miracles would happen, but only for people who had learned to trust Him completely. He said that people who tried to survive through their own clever planning would fail. Only those who depended entirely on Him would see His supernatural provision. Then He showed me something that made me cry. I saw my own sister Karen. In the vision, she was standing in line to get the mark. I screamed at her not to do it, but of course she couldn't hear me. I watched her hold out her hand, and I watched them implant the device under her skin. I turned to Jesus and begged Him to tell me this wasn't real, that my sister wouldn't really make this choice. But He looked at me with such sadness and revealed that many people I loved would choose the mark. He said I couldn't stop them from making their own decisions, but I could warn them while there was still time. He showed me what I needed to tell people. He said the most important thing wasn't storing food or finding a hiding place. The most important thing was learning to hear His voice clearly right now before the crisis hit. He explained that people who spent years building a real relationship with Him through prayer and Bible reading would instinctively know what to do when the pressure came. But people who only went to church out of habit would crumble as soon as things got difficult. I watched more scenes unfold. I saw the government passing laws that made it illegal to help unmarked people. I saw people getting arrested for sharing food with believers who had refused the mark. I saw children being taken away from parents who wouldn't let them get marked. But in the middle of all this darkness, I saw light breaking through. I watched believers praying over sick people who had taken the mark, and even though those people couldn't be saved anymore, they were healed of their physical sicknesses. Jesus showed me that His mercy would reach even those who had made the final wrong choice. I saw underground churches meeting in secret, and the presence of God in those meetings was stronger than anything I'd ever felt in a regular church service. People were having visions, prophesying, healing the sick, all happening regularly because they had been forced to depend completely on God's power. Jesus showed me one more scene before sending me back. I saw a moment that seemed to be about a year from now. The mark system was fully in place, and life had become unbearable for those who refused it. But then I watched as believers started operating in authority that seemed impossible. I saw a man pray over a food distribution center that was only serving marked people, and suddenly the scanner stopped working. Unmarked people were able to get food for the first time in months. I saw a woman speak to a group of police officers who were coming to arrest Christians, and the officers just turned around and left, later saying they couldn't remember why they had come in the first place. Jesus revealed to me that His people would walk in power that would astound the world, but this power would only flow through those who had died completely to themselves. He said the greatest miracles would come through the people who had given up everything, including their own lives, for His sake. As the vision began to fade, Jesus gave me one final instruction. He told me to wake up and tell everyone what I had seen. He said the time of preparation was almost over and that people needed to choose right now whether they would follow him no matter the cost. Then I felt myself being pulled backward, away from the throne room, away from his presence. The sensation was like being yanked by a rope attached to my chest. Colors and lights swirled around me, and then suddenly I gasped and opened my eyes. I was in a hospital bed. Karen was sitting next to me holding my hand, tears running down her face. When she saw my eyes open, she started crying harder and calling for the nurses. The doctors came rushing in. They checked my vitals and kept saying they didn't understand. They showed me brain scans that apparently showed I should have severe damage, but somehow I was completely fine. They called it a miracle and I agreed, but not for the reasons they thought. I've been home for 2 weeks now. The library gave me medical leave, so I've had time to process everything I saw. But Jesus was clear that I wasn't supposed to keep this to myself. That's why I'm sharing it now. I don't know if people will believe me. I don't know if they'll think I'm crazy or that my brain was just misfiring during the stroke. But I can't stay quiet about what I witnessed. It was too real, too clear, too urgent. The global system is coming soon. The mark that will separate people forever is almost here. And the only way to survive it spiritually is to know Jesus so intimately that you can recognize his voice above every other sound. I'm telling my story because maybe it will wake someone up. Maybe it will push someone to take their faith seriously while there's still time. Maybe it will save someone from making the choice that can never be undone. The decision ahead will be final. There won't be any going back. Choose now before the pressure comes whether you'll follow Jesus no matter what it costs. Because I'm telling you, from what I saw, the cost will be everything. But so will the reward. Thank you for listening to this testimony. If you have been blessed, please like this video and share it with someone. You might save a soul today by sharing this message to someone you love. If you have done that, may the Lord bless you. Until next one, remain blessed.